Welcome, everybody. I'm Christian Berger, president of Berger Consulting Group. We are just letting a few people get logged in, and we'll start pretty much right on time. Stand by. All right, welcome everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and get started just in the interest of keeping us on time. Again, for those of you that weren't on just a minute ago, my name is Christian Berger, president of Berger Consulting Group. We are delighted to have you with us, and I do appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to join us on this discussion. Joining me today are John Rygg and Amanda Kalcic. John, Amanda, you guys want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, good afternoon and good morning to everybody. John Rygg. I specialize in field technologies for construction, and happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, my name's Amanda Kalcic. I'm a senior consultant over with Berger Consulting and been in the industry and consulting space for about 10 years, but in construction for 20.
Very good. Thank you, guys. So a couple of things today for this little session. First of all, we would love it to be as interactive and engaging as possible. There is a QA button at the top of your bar. If you guys have questions, either in the moment or for the end, we're going to allow some time at the end. Feel free to type those in. We are going to address if you have something right away that like we're not clear on, type it into QA. Amy's going to be looking at monitoring that and certainly feeding us those questions. Also, we'll have time at the end if there's a larger question the group wants us to address. We will be providing this deck at the end, so I mean certainly take notes, but you'll get the deck at the end. One other housekeeping thing, we are going to be sending out a survey. We're going to send out like a 2 or 3 question survey at the end that we'd love for you to fill out. It would help us make sure that these kinds of events are productive and good use of your time, valuable. So be on the lookout for a BCG email with just a couple, 3 questions that you guys can respond to. With that, I'm going to jump us right in. Let me go to slideshow. And by the way, I want to just acknowledge friends and colleagues on the call that clients. I recognize quite a few names on there, so thank you guys for being on, guys and gals. So we are an IT consulting firm working with construction. We've been in business 30 years. We've been watching the industry evolve with their technology for that period of time, and it's been an amazing journey. We all know that construction doesn't move as quickly as perhaps other industries do. but the events over the last 2 to 3 years have certainly captured everybody's attention and maybe fueled some momentum in this space. So, I mean, the level of engagement, the seriousness that we've seen over the last 2, 3 years has been substantially more and better than it has been in the past. We're still solving problems from 2 decades ago, I would say sometimes with construction firms, but um, the attention has moved much more forward into data and analytics, AI, workflow, things like that. Now we are, because of that work, we are involved with John and Amanda and we're involved with vendors and products and VARs every day. And so we're going to conferences. So we're hearing about the direction that everyone's taking. And some of what you're going to hear today is from our direct work with both contractors as well as vendors. I would say that one of the reasons that we wanted to do this was because the pressure out there in the marketplace right now is immense. From the board of directors to senior management, everybody's like, we got to have AI, we got to have it now. And that's rather, given the state of maturity of all of that and the high stakes nature of sharing data out into public spaces and all that, it's precarious. So we felt like maybe we should do some level setting. And we know that you as IT directors and CIOs and VPs have to deliver and show some progress on this. But let's figure out how to do it safely. And the vendors, to their credit or otherwise, are certainly promoting all of the agentic AI and AI capability, AI readiness that they have. And sometimes that's in varying states. So there's a lot going on. Some initial context too. I mean, it was 2023 when Chat and Claude got originally released, and it wasn't too long after that that a second round from Chat GPT, Claude, Copilot, and others came around. And so the vendors had been developing AI for quite some time in their LLMs, and but they needed to get in front. So all of them were releasing on or about the same time because they didn't want to risk, market share. So this came quickly, and it is profound in terms of its impact. So we as an industry need to figure out how to get it deployed. I would also say, and this is maybe not too surprising, but there's not regulation on this yet. There is not industry guidance yet. So we're kind of running without a net, I would say. And that's a little, I mean, we're just early on. My feeling would be that this disruption is on par with the internet. The internet came more slowly, and people built toward internet and such, but that obviously had a profound impact too. And I think the AI realm has every bit of that same potential impact on disruption, if you will. Contractors have to be prepared for this, and I would say, as a general statement, some are more ready than others. Everyone's experimenting with different things and trying things out. It's very difficult to control that, although some organizations are locking it down. But there isn't enough governance within most construction organizations to do this in a safe and really effective way. I've seen some firms who are actually developing positions within their IT and structure around AI, whether it's a director of AI or an AI analyst or some position in there focused solely on this technology. Now, the other thing I would offer up is, in a more general sense, is that when you're using an LLM, your data matters less. You're just basically asking questions and getting feedback from marketplace and known sources, et cetera. But when you're asking agentic AI to evaluate your data and give you insight, predictive capability with your data needs to be in good shape. And I think we could all agree that um, because of the way we operate as an industry, sometimes that data is less than pristine. So I think the use of AI, agentic AI specifically, is going to cause our construction firms to have to clean house, get that data cleaned up, more complete, more accurate. It's just a little bit of context. So what are we going to do today? We are going to look at use cases, 10, maybe 11 use cases that we've seen specifically be deployed. And more than just the hype, more than just website, but actually seen it in action. And the way we've laid this out is we've got a current state box for what we know to exist today in a given process area, like estimating or progress management or payroll. What are the issues, so to speak? Then we look at where AI is coming in, what are the capabilities, and then how does that impact the business positively? We also include risks and considerations. We think in some of these cases there are risks that are identified and have to be mitigated. So we point those out in the lower left. We've also, in the green box, offered up some specific products, companies that we know that have done a good job of deploying AI and in a very controlled and professional manner. Maybe they're leveraging an LLM or an SLM, but and really it's not an endorsement of the product. I think it's just to give you a little bit of a leg up in terms of where the where you might go. And then we did add one last thing, which was implementation effort. We tried to give you some idea of whether this was a difficult solution to deploy, moderate, or easy. So this is the layout we're going to use for each of the cases. Okay, one of my favorites, procurement and purchasing. So we currently, as you guys know, that the state of procurement in construction is mixed at best. We still have people calling up vendors and getting product delivered. We have job sites running over to Home Depot. We've got purchasing cards. We've got requisitions in text messages or in emails, and it's a bit all over the place. And that's problematic when you want to put something like AI or a procurement solution in place. Some firms have begun to implement larger scale procurement platforms like Coupa, Kojo, GEP, some of those, which are really dedicated platforms for vendor interoperability. And they're going to be injecting AI into their platforms. I would say the receiving function tends to be a almost a forgotten process where receiving tickets are, balled up and on the floor of a truck or job site. They rarely get in, they rarely get entered. So the receiving function is problematic as well. And then a lot of construction firms will use good suppliers, but they're smaller and they're not very sophisticated. So the interoperability with any kind of a solution can be a little fraught. Now, where are we seeing AI come into this is in the development of the bill of material. Construction firms, at least self-perform, a lot of times don't get a full bill of material early on in the job. Even though that really could originate from estimating or the model, it doesn't. So the bill of material has to be developed after the fact. And I think AI is a natural for helping to mature and develop out that bill of material. What do we need to buy on this job? Would be the query. Also, the RFQ process, being able to solicit vendors, identify new suppliers, do an RFQ process, analyze the proposals, and come up with a recommendation for the best is another easy ask of an agentic AI. If you have good data in your system, you can do vendor analysis. Which vendors are reliable? Which ones ship on time? Which ones hold their price? Which ones charge more for delivery? Like you could have which ones provide compliance documents. So you really can have a lot of good vendor management data with AI. There's also the notion of invoice and PO matching, which would be a natural for AI. And Amanda's going to cover that in a couple minutes on the AP section. But, you know, if you guys remember, and this was a while ago, but back in the old days, contractors would get their invoices from vendors in the mail, like envelopes, or in email, and they'd have to sort them out, figure out where they go, match them to POs. Agentic AI can do all of that work. And that's really where some of these procurement platforms are going, and some invoice matching solutions as well. So that's going to be good. And then the last thing I'll point out for AI, and this has been actually around for a while, but not through AI, is sales tax compliance. So you guys purchase a lot of material for a job site, which is in one county under one tax jurisdiction. You've got material on jobs that are some taxable, some non-taxable. And then sometimes you buy material for a job, but you receive it into a shop or a yard first. So then the tax jurisdiction changes. AI can sit in the background and muddle through all of that work, churn through all that detailed work, and make sure that the sales tax rules are applied correctly. So your sales tax audits are much lower risk and much more efficient. And I think the business impact of all of that is pretty clear in terms of improved purchasing, better pricing, better selection of better vendors. Now, the risks, though, I would say in this particular area have to do with the lack of maturity in a lot of organizations around the procurement process. For whatever reason, it's just never been something that firms are passionate about. And so the process, and I'll use the term sloppy or inconsistent, can be a challenge. And I think in order for AI to work effectively, that process needs to be put under the microscope. I also know that construction firms move pretty readily between centralized purchasing and then decentralized purchasing and then back again. So I think that firms need to decide where they want to land, what functions are going to be in central, like shared service capability, and then which functions are going to be remote at job sites or division offices, that sort of thing. Now, this is a highly competitive space because we're talking about a very large volume of dollars that are going to funnel through this. So it's very competitive, a lot of new entrants in the space. There is a solution out there that we became aware of recently called fieldmaterials.ai that is trying to do kind of what Kojo and Remarkable are doing, but it's very AI forward. Coupa and GEP are much larger scaled procurement platforms that have a lot of vendor engagement, vendor involvement, and they're putting AI agents into their product to help streamline some of those processes. Now, I would say that we put this as a moderate implementation effort because it is not because the technology is particularly hard, but because getting construction firms to conform to consistent use of procurement processes is always a challenge. So I think this is a little bit heavier lift than one might think. Good. Use case 2, safety. We're seeing some good use cases of AI in the realm of safety. So rather than just accumulating a lot of incident reports, the job JHAs, the job hazard analysis, accident reports, OSHA 300s, rather than just accumulating those forms, which a lot of firms used to do, we're now aggregating that into centralized safety solutions, safety databases. And then you can apply AI against that and say, where's our highest risk? What are our highest risks? Which superintendent has the best safety record, safe hours worked? All of that information can be analyzed. And one of the solutions that I'm particularly fond of, I suppose, is, and they've been around a little bit, well, longer than certainly AI capability. In fact, I would say it was almost a use case for AI before AI became such a rage. And that's the SmartVid IO. So they actually, SmartVid can analyze job site video and job site pictures and identify no hard hat, no fall protection, no shoring. So analyzing job site conditions through pictures and video and then send alerts to project managers, superintendents to say, hey, we've got risk going on here. This one is maybe light to moderate deployment, but again, one should definitely have the safety sort of solution and vision for what you want to accomplish before we just launch with a bunch of products. Good. Contract management, another one that we're seeing a lot more deployment of. Contracts are lifeblood to construction firms, and oddly enough, though, they're published in Word, they're routed in DocuSign, they're redlined. Maybe they've got legal review, maybe they don't. They are put into multiple systems, whether it's ERP or project management. They're managed a little haphazard. Then we've got admin compliance, that like insurance certificates, lien waivers, signed contracts, bonds, insurance, certified payrolls has to be managed. So this process is not highly centralized, is not yet highly structured. AI has the ability, and we've seen this for a year or two now, has the ability to scan these contract documents, identify onerous language, risks, liquidated damages. It can even identify billing requirements. So the billing and payment requirements in the contract can be extracted. Where I see that as being handy is, imagine having a database with or a small language model of your billing terms, requirements on a given contract, and then you've got your billing system in your ERP or your project management system doing the billing. Well, the billing system can refer to the billing requirements and make sure that you are issuing your invoices in conformance with the requirements. So I think that's where I see some power, identifying the risks and hopefully negotiating better terms, and then also being able to compare the billing requirements against your billing function. I think you'll get quicker returns on your subcontract review, reduced exposure from any language that's buried in the contract, which are often the owner contracts anyway, dozens of pages long. Now, I would say that some of the risks include that AI can miss nuanced or unusual contract language. You still need for anything that's truly high stakes, you really want to view AI's recommendations or AI's observations as just that. It's not meant to be the final word, and you still want legal counsel to be on top of the very significant ones. We think First Rule is doing a bang up job in this area. Document Crunch also. So there's a couple of solutions that are being applied there, and we think this is probably one of the easier ones to actually get deployed. And with that, Amanda, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the finance, HR, administrative. Sometimes we think of it as the back office kind of aspect of construction, and traditionally we spent the users and the employees in this area have spent a lot of time collecting the data and entering the data and reporting on what's happening. And, when we look at, starting with AP, we look at what AI has done to transform instead of looking and entering all of these transactions. I think back in the day, we saw the evolution start with ingesting invoices in OCR, and we think of AP, we think of AI reading invoices, but I think we've actually moved to another level where we're focusing on, hey, how do we use the data instead of looking at the vendor performance, manually and looking for unusual invoices. We can layer on these AI capabilities to quickly identify like unusual spending and unusual payment patterns, and highlighting some vendor performance issues. The impact of the business is we don't have an AP person looking at 500 invoices. It's just not feasible, or entering 500 invoices. We have AI saying, hey, here's 20 you really need to look at. And so we're getting that faster payment process, invoice processing. We're getting fewer, hands-on invoices. They're looking at the exceptions and really focused in on that. And we're actually leveraging AI to look at the payment patterns, which help foster, hey, this is improved cash flow management. We're able to prioritize invoices that give you high discounts, so they're getting approved. You're able to pay them better cash flow, which everybody likes in construction. There's a couple of really front runners in leveraging this technology. Certainly some of the higher end ERPs like an IFS or similar, or third-party solutions like TrailD. They're really leveraging these AI technologies. I think obviously with any AI, and Christian, you kind of alluded to it, any of them, some of the risks are we still need to look at it. So AI is pulling this stuff forward, but it still needs some of that human attention to it. The other area is around the general ledger and the transactions. Most finance teams spend the first week after month end explaining, what's already happened. And I'm sure everybody's had the experience where you're closing month end and, there's variances that you've kind of witnessed. Hey, why is the equipment repair increased 35%? And finance has to spend the time and pull away from month end digging into it, when this AI capability is able to query the system. Instead of searching, we're saying what's changed, what's happened, pulling up the journal entries or pulling up some of the transactions that you weren't expecting, and providing some likely explanation that you can go then have a discussion with the equipment manager or the project team. So this is, the business impact is the faster month-end close. You're not manually reconciling each account. AI is layered on top of that to help close the month-end faster, to improve the financial accuracy, to be proactive with seeing trends, and better insight into the data.
Well, I mean, if you think about that, Amanda, you've got the natural language query. So
Yeah.
you could just ask your LLM or SLM, hey, why is this account 20% more than budget, or why did this jump, or what are the transactions that hit this account? And I mean, really, we're going to get to the point where we can ask a controller, could ask that question, get an answer, and then realize there was a misposting in this, and then make a recommendation to repost. And it wouldn't post the journal entry, but it could create the journal entry to reclassify. So I think that's another aspect of this area that I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and certainly building in those prompts so the system just looks at, hey, I want to know everything that has a variance of 20% from what I was expecting, or the budget. And it's creating that narrative so that you can, talk to the business owner or the data owners with the, understanding what's going on. And then that kind of drives into even financial forecasting. When we talk about the forecasting, the organizational forecasting, the current state, I think we're kind of shifting away, but it was a lot of building this manually, updating, cash flow projections on a monthly and a quarterly basis, looking at the data, when are we going to get paid, looking at the terms, and all of this was being pulled together most of the time into an Excel spreadsheet. So I think AI has really kind of put its mark on this while continuously looking at, forecasted cash flow. And as we know in construction, every day is different. We might have weather impacts, we might have delays on the project, we might have, things that we've uncovered that have resulted in maybe more labor being put to something. And AI can be used to start to predict some of those cost overruns, incorporating more of the data that's out there, maybe in your daily reports, and applying that into your forecasts. So
Yeah, really being able to combine both your financial forecast and your backlog and your, opportunity, so you can go look forward 12 months, 16 months, and know not only what your profit and your cash flow is going to look like, but even what your labor demand is going to look like.
yeah, and you might have 30-day terms to be paid, but hey, the system is now, and AI is used to say, well, this guy typically doesn't pay you for 60, and you have, you know, pay when paid on these 4 vendors, or these are the terms that we typically pay these vendors in, and helping to kind of understand those patterns, and being a little bit closer to what the cash forecast could look like. So, and there's some
Very
great
good.
solutions that are embracing this. I mean, I've kind of noted a few here: Workday Adaptive Planning, Profix. These are point solutions that could be layered over an ERP.
Deal.
One of the areas also wanted to kind of highlight here on the back office is payroll. Payroll is, in construction, often a daily/weekly activity. And so, using AI capability is really a helpful tool in this area. Before we would have tools, you run reports, hey, who's missing time cards, or hey, what's the overtime rules? You layer on the complexities of unions or different states or prevailing wage, and you're looking to see, are we right on this overtime rules? Is this, is the system able to handle this complexity? Powering using AI over this capability, it allows it to quickly scan these time cards for unusual patterns, look at some of these agreements or union setups, and flag where it might be out of line, or with a prevailing wage where things need to be adjusted. This was happening all manual, so having that extra layer to reduce payroll errors and making sure that companies are in compliance with these public works. So it's really saving companies a lot of risk in this area, and ultimately a lot of time on the processing aspect.
Well, too, Amanda, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of construction firms rely on a person who's been there for 20 plus years, who knows all of the little intricacies and rules. That person could be nearing retirement, and we don't have anybody to replace. And
Yep.
so when you talk about risk in a process, that's a substantial risk that construction firms just don't pay attention to. And AI is a natural for being able to account for hundreds, if not thousands, of rules and variances and nuances, and really allow somebody in payroll to concentrate on the high value, high stakes matters.
Yep. And that kind of flows into what you're talking about, the complexities. I mean, one of the biggest areas I mentioned earlier is on these union agreements. I mean, you can have multiple union agreements. You can have agreements that change, yearly. And what is the difference of what's going on? And having that tribal knowledge and understanding and interpreting these agreements was something that experienced people had. And as they shift away, there's going to be a bit of a gap. But AI has come along to be able to read these documents and extract this information. And as you had mentioned earlier, Christian, like even having that chat box where you can type in, hey, what is the difference between this, or what is the understanding around this labor agreement? And it's quickly looking and scanning and providing you with that information. So that's a really helpful. I think this is an area of a lot of complexity. And I think in this area, we're really starting to see, I mean, it's not quite there. We've seen a few third-party solutions try to read the union agreements and populate the tables within ERP or within their payroll solution. I don't think we're quite there, but I think that's where they're wanting to go. So you're putting in these agreements and it's populating all the rules, all those business rules and logics for you and handling that part of it, which
So
is
Amanda,
pretty time consuming.
is that going to impact both the ERP payroll setup and the time card solution?
Yeah, I mean, we're also seeing a shift of all of those business rules and OT rules, shift premiums getting pushed into the time card. So I would naturally see this technology going over both of those applications.
Good, good. Okay, HR.
Yeah, so another area kind of in the back office and getting a lot more visibility is on the HR. And, we'll look at one of the use cases that I've highlighted here. Maybe some people do, but not a lot of people enjoy doing that performance review. It's, sitting down and writing a performance and thinking back 12 months or 3 months, whatever your cycle is often kind of cumbersome and it sort of takes a backseat to the day to day. So, HR solutions and particularly in other industries or the bigger tier one solutions have really embraced AI throughout their solution. But the one area being helping on these performance reviews. So taking your notes, taking things that you've written down or what project outcomes and utilizing that to help you guys draft summary reviews that, you're no longer spending the time, hey, what does it look like? You're spending the time taking that information and having those really critical conversations with your employees. It's also taking the skills and the sets and looking at the different learning opportunities and identifying where maybe some of your employees could benefit from a learning experience or helping and being assisted in different areas. So I think it's helping reduce the amount of time spent putting the data together and allowing the managers to spend more time with the coaching and the discussion part with their employees.
Very good. And you mentioned UKG and Workday. Those products have been around a while. They're deployed in construction. Are they the ones adding AI into their products?
Yeah, they're definitely adding AI in their products. They serve a lot of the different industries and they've really embraced it and it's throughout their whole product. I mean, I've mentioned here on performance review, but it's certainly embedded in a lot of their different kind of applications to help assist in the different processes. So yeah, kind of going into even on the workforce intelligence. So this is one of those other areas within HR. I mean, it touches on all facets. Really, it's looking at the data. Say you want to do a schedule and you need to know what employees are available, what skills do they have, are they on PTO? A lot of that information in the current state is let's make a call to HR or let's look at this solution or what's the PTO schedule, and it's just relaying or digging into a lot of the information where AI can continuously look at the workforce data, which could be sprawled over multiple systems and provide you with quick answers. You have these skills or you have these certificates with these employees and their availability is coming up in 6 months, or it can even look at schedules and say, well, this project's behind, so he's probably not going to be available. And it gives you that data to quickly help build your crews and plan and schedule. So I think the impact is it's helping faster staffing on projects. It's helping identify the right skills, the right labor. Um, yeah.
Very good. All right. John, you're up. Fleet and workforce management.
Great, thanks, Christian. So far we've talked a lot about some back office AI technologies, a lot of great examples of that. A lot of the work we do in construction is actually out in the field, though. So, there's a lot of good technologies coming out. I think field AI technologies are probably one of the most overlooked areas and has the larger potential out there. Some of those out there we're talking about here is fleet and workforce management. And when I talk about fleet and workforce management, a lot of that refers to optimization and safety. So some products like Samsara, which is a fleet management application, is a very large suite of things that allow you to do routing. It has equipment that can go put in the vehicles that will look at safety and alerts, much like SmartVid IO that Christian mentioned earlier, can use AI to identify safety hazards like people not wearing their hard hats. This can be done with equipment as well. So you can retrofit equipment and put safety applications within there that will allow you to notify the driver of issues. It'll look for issues of safety, such as drowsiness. I've actually worked with clients where the job site had a mandatory requirement to have technology like this in the cab of the equipment. It was in Canada over a long haul area. And so this equipment does a very good job at notifying the driver of issues. It also does routing to where if you're on a job site that can't have the laydown yard at the job site. We've worked with clients that worked in military bases that had to bring in everything on a time delivery. So this type of technology works very good at managing and routing deliveries of equipment and materials. The other aspect of fleet management is becoming more automation, where you're actually having AI control the equipment, where that, when you talk automation and equipment, you're really talking about mobile robotics. So such as on an assembly line at a car factory, you have robotics doing repeatable tasks over and over again. Very good at doing that. They do it the same way every time. They don't get tired. It's much safer than having people do that. That applies to construction as well. Things like solar farms. Solar farms, I always consider them as a kind of a reverse assembly line, where the assembly line's not moving, but the equipment is. So solar farms are thousands and thousands of repeatable tasks, putting piles in, placing panels on the holders. And that's something where companies like Built Robotics, Cosmic Robotics, companies like that are very good at automating those tasks. So, I mean, if you can imagine placing a solar panel on a rack, two people do that thousands of times a day. They're 80 pounds. Most time where you have solar sites, it's in deserts, it's really hot. So this is where, excuse me, this is where autonomous vehicles are very good at taking some of these repetitive tasks that are dangerous for people to do and require things over and over again. But it is something that requires a lot of planning to do, just like anything with technology. Garbage in, garbage out. So the better data you have, the better plans you have, the better BIM models that you have for these types of things, it will improve the implementation of it. So
yeah, John, let me add on to this one just a little bit, because there are some folks on the call that are in the heavy civil space, aggregate producing space. One of the things that I'm passionate about is trying to bring together probably about 6 different systems data for this given process. Think about, you start with HCSS or bid to win to bid the job. You've got crews and fleet mix planned. You've got a P6 or a Microsoft project schedule. That's 2. You've got a scale management system. You've got a trucking application. You've got an equipment application plus your ERP. So you've got 6 different systems at least that are managing all of the equipment and labor, manpower, and material that's needed. And then you might have a trucking application as well. I was hopeful that we as an industry would start to aggregate that, but AI can actually look into each of those systems and then give you a consolidated view of what's the optimal way to deploy your trucks, deploy your equipment, deploy your labor, and identify risks that are potential for job site job performance. So I think in addition, John, to the things you've mentioned here, I think that, and I love the robotics aspect, but I think just the general coordination of 6 applications is something that AI is ready made for.
Yes, definitely. It's a great way to reach into disparate applications and combine a lot of that content together as an overview.
And then you were going to talk a little bit about progress monitoring.
Yeah, I think this is one of the great successes in field AI. I've seen this been implemented, and what this is it allows you to go in to a job site, mostly vertical construction, with a 360 camera and walk around on a weekly basis or a daily basis, whatever you want. It then takes that video and compares it with your project plan and your BIM models that you have loaded up. And what it can do is then is give you progress monitoring. So it can actually understand what's been completed and what hasn't. It can also tell you when things have been completed wrong. So, for example, if you have a light switch in a wrong spot, it could tell you that. Or if you don't have a light switch and you have drywall and no electrical behind it, it can tell you that there's a problem there. What we've done in testing is we've actually seen that the AI aspect of it is more accurate than the human doing it, and it's faster, can give you much better reporting. Example of accuracy, when a field engineer is doing progressing on a job site, they basically take an isometric drawing and highlight what's done and what's not, right? And the AI will go in and look at the video and look at the three-dimensional aspect of it. So when we were doing testing on this, the field engineer marked off some HVAC as being done, and the AI came back and said, "Wait, it's not done." And so as we went back and looked at see what the issue was, is where the vents came down vertically, they were not installed yet. So the AI was smart enough to understand that aspect of it was not done, even though the human marked everything off as being done. So it's a much easier way of going in, and it's time stamped as well. So if you're working with subcontractors, you have a dispute, you have a picture of it, you can show the BIM model against it, you can show a before and after picture. So it makes it a lot easier to work with subcontractors and understand and communicate with that. We also saw this as being a really benefit to communicating with the client. The clients love this type of application because you can break down progress. So this example I was talking about was a hospital that we were working on. You could break down by hospital room the percentage complete, or by area the percentage complete very easily, and very easily slice and dice this. So it's very a good tool for communication, tracking and documenting the progressing, as well as reviewing the progress with the clients. One of the things you have to consider with this is, once again, BIM is very important, and BIM is something I would talk about over and over again when it comes to technology. It's only as accurate as what you're feeding it. So in this example, it was a retrofit of a building, and one of the things they were going to do is change out the windows. But the old windows were in there while they were working on the project. Well, the AI would go through and it would recognize that the windows were in, and it actually flagged it as being done ahead of time because it saw the old windows before the new ones in. They didn't have the process in the project management project book was to basically replace the windows, not to take the old windows out and put new windows in, but the AI saw it as, okay, you're way ahead of schedule on this because the windows are already in, and it flagged it. So once again, as the AI gets smarter, you have to get smarter right along with it.
Well, and if you open up additional data to the AI model, then the software would know we haven't even received the new windows in, so they can't be installed. We've had no labor charge to window installation. So I think these products like OpenSpace were excellent at identifying a lot of in-state conditions, but it didn't have the broader context. When you add in things like material delivery and labor charging, all of a sudden it starts to understand, okay, those have to be the old windows because we don't even have the new windows.
Exactly. Yeah, I think as you open up AI to more and more systems, it's just like a person. The more data that you have, or the more information you have, you can make better decisions, right? And that's the same way with AI. The more data, the more information they have, the better decisions they can make.
The greater the context. Very good. All right, John, I've got to move us along here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time because I actually think most of you guys already know this one, the whole estimating and takeoff system, Toggle, Stack, some stuff Autodesk is doing, Join. I'm going to see, I think AI is ready made. This is an area that we have to get more automated, more efficient, because you guys are being asked to bid more and more work. You've got to marshal your limited estimating resources carefully. So having automation in here to do your takeoff and or help you build optimal project plans will be valuable. Okay, so I've got a couple of things I'm going to close out on, one rather large one. But don't forget the QA. I saw a couple questions in the QA. If you have questions, feel free. Amy will be asking those in just a couple minutes. Okay, ERP. We've touched on ERP a number of times, and I wanted to take a minute and make sure you guys were clear on the evolution of where we have been, where we're headed. So, and this is left to right. So back in the old days, we had a singular ERP that had code, UI, data reporting, all nested in a single product. And I could list the names, but you know who those products are. Then probably circa 2000-ish, 2010, the vendors started to break apart their ERP into a UI UX layer, a code logic layer, database layer, and maybe even a data abstraction layer. Sage did that with their Sage Replicator. So now you had a database of replicated data that was available for reporting and then eventually BI. And they also added in this batch upload download capability in certain places where they knew it needed to be. That was helpful, like in budget uploads, as an example, time cards, as an example. Here is on the right is really this, I'd say, current/future state, near future state. So again, you've still got the UI UX layer. You have the code layer down here, which is where the business logic is. But some of the vendors have added a customization configuration layer. So this is something that you as a customer of the product can actually go in and make changes to the way the system operates, whether it's screen modification, some algorithms. You can do things in there that do not disturb the core code. And then, of course, you've still got your database layer at the bottom. This is very crude, obviously. But significantly, the cloud vendors have all been API forward, API first. So they've developed this API layer for most of their underlying processes. And that's in an attempt to eliminate this batch upload download capability. But what's happening in addition to that is you're getting this agentic AI capability, and it's being used by both the publisher themselves, the software companies like Acumatica, Sage Intacct, IFS, Microsoft, and VARs, specialized VARs that serve the industry. And they're building agentic agents which will interact with the ERP and process things through it. But the only way they can do that is with this API layer. Otherwise, it's very cumbersome. So we see that this API capability was very fortuitous in terms of the agentic AI needs that capability to interact with ERP. So I think that you're going to see a lot more agentic AI coming from the ERP publishers and from the VARs in this particular manner, which I think is a good development overall. Okay, so that's all great and amazing stuff. But are you ready? No, you're not. You have elements in place, perhaps, but the idea of governance in most construction firms is new. You have an IT steering committee. You might have a process owner. I don't, it all depends on the organization. Some firms are there, but largely not. And so you needed governance in place before AI even hit the radar. And now we've got this sort of jet fuel available to us, but we've really got to deploy it carefully. So deploying governance in a responsible, in a structured manner is key to this being successful and eliminating considerable risk with using the various tools. I think contractors should have published guidelines, not just published guidelines that sit on a shelf, but that people know and understand. And then make sure you're working with corporate accounts of Claude or whatever your choice, Copilot, so that your data doesn't get shared out. And also, I think it's important that you guys decide, like, what are we going to rely on AI for, and what can't we rely on it for, that where we still need to intervene. I think Amanda touched on that. A lot of times AI is going to give you good and helpful, but maybe not the final word. And we certainly don't want things like payment processing to be happening so automated that we don't have sufficient control. I'm going to leave our time for questions now, but just so you guys all know, and this is maybe a small commercial announcement, BCG has had for the last maybe 9 months something called an AI assessment. So where we go in and help organizations evaluate the condition of their current state and where the most value will come from and help get that deployed. So if you want more information on that, that's on our website. Now, Amy, I'll open it up for questions.
Yes, we had a few come in. The first was, for contract management specifically, do you see custom build solutions using tools like Claude Cowork by some contractors that would allow the agent to learn about the company's focus?
Yes, so good question. I think any of this stuff can be, or a lot of it can be deployed internally with Claude Cowork and other tools. The thing is that I think some of the vendors that have solutions, I'll just use First Rule as an example, already have a lot of experience with this. And the key thing that I want to point out is that systems like that are using small language models, not large language models. So they are very prescriptive about the knowledge that so they're not using Reddit threads as a source of data. They're not using Wikipedia. They're not using whatever, out there. They're very focused, and those solutions will learn very quickly around. And they also have industry knowledge about terminology, contract language, contract law, and even certainly localities, permits. I mean, they can know a lot of things that are hard to know in a more of a large language model concept. So I would, if I were a contractor, I would be more dependent on solutions that have packaged these functions and tune their model to be more efficient. The other thing that we really shouldn't neglect here is the notion of cost. This use of AI is being dribbled out kind of like free iPhones now used to be, and now there's going to be charges for this, and it may not be inexpensive. So I think you have to be very cautious in your development and your use case. Maybe one or two more, Amy?
Yeah, just a couple more in here. How can a company navigate data safety with AI? Not using proprietary legal matter, NDA, and PII data is easy to understand. When you get into
Well,
using AI with estimates and drawings and financials, we get stuck on guarding against the worst case scenario of data leaks.
right. And I feel like that's the probably longer answer than we have, but the short answer would be that's where the private licensing of Claude and other Claude and Copilot and things like that get used. So that way your data does not leave your entity. And then I've also seen companies lock down the use of AI, so your employee base can't just go out willy-nilly and start asking Copilot or Claude, feeding data in and saying, "What do you think about this?"
Two more. We have any solutions you see in the marketplace specific to manpower planning for multiple job sites for a CM or GC, identifying future manpower gaps in between projects and or hiring needs?
Well, yes. So there is Bridget is probably one of the better known ones, and I don't personally know how much AI they've built in, but it's absolutely natural place for them to put agentic AI. And again, Bridget is another one of those solutions that was all about manpower planning, but it didn't have any context. It only knew what you put in it. But if Claude can look at your P6 schedule and your Bridget database and your work schedule in Workday with your employees, it's going to create a better forecast. So Bridget, and then Procore has they took Labor Chart and rebranded that. So I'd say between Labor Chart and Bridget, those are the two I see most commonly. Okay, I know everybody's got calls they got to jump on to. I can't thank you guys enough for being on. This was a lot of fun to develop, and stay tuned to BCG because we are engaged with this all day, every day, and are trying to push forward. This was our first inaugural webinar. You may even see a follow-up to this one. In the meantime, you'll get your slides, and if you would be so kind as to respond to Amy's survey, that would be lovely. John, Amy, Amanda, and Amy, thanks for the time on this, and everybody have a great day.
Great, thank you.